One of the things I want to say up front, and it's a very important thing, and this is the second semester, so it's not usually quite a big deal. Because most people have already taken care of this. But I got to urge you, if you have any learning issues that you need accommodations for, I want you to go immediately to the Office of Disabilities and Student Support Services. And they will send me what they call a letter of accommodation. And I take all of that seriously, but I gotta know and I gotta have it from them, a letter. So please do that. Now, like I say, second semester, most of you, if not all of you, have been here a while, so you probably, if it's an issue, if it's something you need, you've already taken care of it. But in the fall semester, I get a lot of new students and they, well, you know, it's a lot of new things hitting you guys coming to university, and it takes a while to get some of this stuff started, or even know that those things are available. So I want to urge you to take care of that, so I know up front what I need to do to help you. And so I got PowerPoints, and first of all, I want to show you what parts of Canvas we'll use in this class. And so oh man, why it do that? Let's see, 100, 150. This is crazy. I get this all set up. Oh. There. I think I let it set too long. And so hopefully this will be it. Oh yeah. I fooled myself. This is the slide. Hey, it's not easy. This is the slide. So anyway, I like to joke around. You may have noticed. This is our course right here. I don't know how this shows up on your screen, and I took this screenshot last week when I was putting this together. That's why it says upcoming courses. Right now on my Canvas, it says current courses, but this is it. This is who we are, and that's where you'll find this course. And so when you click on it, here's your home. And from there, from the home page, you got all of these hot links to the left. And so hopefully you'll click on simple syllabus, you see, and this has all of the stuff, all of the information, the meeting times, the schedule, everything. That's what a syllabus does. And a lot of times, and people don't quite realize this occasionally, A syllabus is actually something of a quasi-legal document. What I mean by that is what is written in here is what I have to do. I can't change things. You know, I can't start making extra quizzes or doing other things outside of what this says. And so this is the rules. These are the rules we play by, and we stick to them. And so when you get a chance, if you haven't already, take a look at this. And probably the biggest, most important part of this is the section on the schedule of meeting dates, the calendar, and what we'll be doing each day. And I might add to that, what it has on that calendar will be the material that we'll cover, what we'll do at that particular day, at particular class meeting. But I'd like you to read ahead in the textbook before class, whatever it is. We start with chapter 20, and if you can read chapter 20 before we get here, it's so much better. And I think it makes for a better conversation once you get here. So that's kind of the big part. The next thing you would want to do is take a look at the red shelf. And unless you should all have this available on Canvas. And there's a kind of payment plan or something that you can enroll called a one fee. I don't know if any of you took advantage of that program, but it's a reduced rate for your tuition, but you don't get like the free book that comes with the class. And so I have people that do that sometimes. You can check this out at the library. You can buy it on Amazon. The way we give it to you on Canvas is an ebook. And sometimes there's good, there's bad about ebook, you know. I kind of am old school and like actual paper, stick bookmarks in it and stuff. But this has all the material, and once you learn how to navigate it, it's pretty easy to read. And so, next slide. These are the assignments. And what I have here, because I didn't have any assignments ready for you yet, it's the first day. But this will end up following the schedule. This is from last spring. And this is where you'll find it on assignments. And what we do in here is that every couple of weeks, I give you a quiz. And the quiz will be typically an essay question, and it will ask you to do some research. Sometimes research is pretty simple, where you just have to find a textbook and identify the word, the date, the artist, and stuff like that. And there'll be some requirement for you personally analyzing the work. And I'm going to go through some of that here in a minute, but excuse me. But this is where you'll find the assignments. I'll announce them in class when I put them up, and they're on the schedule. So you'll find all of the stuff, almost everything you need to do on assignments, including what's down here on the bottom. Narrated PowerPoint presentation. And that's a big one. That's like worth 200 points. It is due towards the end of the class. in the last couple of weeks of class. And what that is what I ask you to do in lieu of a research paper. And so I'll show you some examples. That's why we're waiting until the end, because I'll talk about it at various points in the semester, and even to the point of some of the quizzes may be directed towards pushing you along on your research for this narrated PowerPoint presentation. And what that involves is that you do research, you get images, and you put this together in a PowerPoint, not unlike what I have here. And you narrate your own research. And so what you come out with is a file that's plays out about 10 minutes long, worthy of going on YouTube. Sometimes you can do it, and on PowerPoint, when you save it with the audio, it turns into an MPEG, which is downloadable on YouTube. But what you're doing is creating simply a 10-minute YouTube video on an artwork of your choice, something that fits within the parameters of this course. Now, the parameters of this course are pretty wide open. We cover art from the year 1400 to the present. And the first part of the class, about the first, 5/8 or so of the class, it's really a trajectory of Western art, beginning with 1400, beginning with the Renaissance. And we move up through Western art to contemporary times. And then after that, we hop around the globe and talk about art since 1400 in various places around the world. And so we don't get to cover everything, unfortunately, but I've been doing this for like 35 years. I still haven't covered everything. I'm still learning new stuff. So anyway, but I try to make it so that you have a reasonably good introduction to art since 1400. That's doable. That's what you do with a 100 level class. I've taught classes at all levels. When I was at Truman, I used to teach the 300 level contemporary art, which was from 1945 to the present. And I've taught some graduate courses and stuff too. So anyway, that's the big thing. But you see, this is January 31st, February 15th, March 2nd. And this research paper is directed towards getting you started on the PowerPoint. So you got to have the words first. You got to have picked out the subject matter, and you got to be familiar with it. So I showed you, let's see, here's the media gallery. What I'll do in these classes, every class meeting, which you might have guessed here, I record on Zoom. And after I record on Zoom, I download it, put it on YouTube, and then put it into the media gallery. And so this is a still life screenshot, so I can't scroll up and down, but you can see this is the class period from April 27th, 2022. And this peering into the gates of hell, that was someone's PowerPoint presentation, and there's actually the student work there. And here, this was feminist art, contemporary, and so on. But at any rate, if you miss class, you can watch it here. And even if you are here and you want to kind of double check something, I got it on video. And so let's see, that's kind of it. And what I have here, oops, I want to minimize it. There we go. So this is live. This is our class right now. And right now I am on modules, which is the slide I did not show because I actually have stuff here for you. It's a Canvas introduction, which is what I just played. And this PowerPoint, which I'm about to open and talk to you about, kind of the laying the groundwork for what we look at and how we look at it. And this is for Monday, and this is chapter 21, but that's just loaded from last year. I take last year's class, load it in here, and then update it as we go. But that's not published yet. And so you wouldn't see that, but you'd see this and you'd see this because both are published. This is what we'll be doing on Monday, chapter 20. And we're going to look at this film here too. Might even get to look at it a little bit before we go today. So, any questions about Canvas? Good. This is, as I say, this is usually a bigger deal and needs a lot more explanation in the fall semester. But you guys have been here, all of you have at least been here one semester. So, and I know we use this software extensively. So anyway, just wanted to let you know what we're looking at. And this is obviously the teacher's view. Your view will, like I say, you won't have this on there, but it'd be, wait a minute, I can show you. There's your student view. And like I say, this is all you have on it. But I can still access this, I'm pretty sure. And I have to download and open. Slideshow from the beginning. What is art history? Okay, I told you this, Ray. Chapter listed on the syllabus, read prior to class meeting. What is art history? This is from Encyclopedia, actually from Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't know how I don't get that, but art history, also called art historiography. Now you can tell it's from Britannica, right? Historical study of visual arts, being concerned with identifying, classifying, describing, evaluating, interpreting, and understanding the art products and historic development of the fields of painting, sculpture, architecture, the decorative arts. You guys in graphic design and interior decoration. I'm sorry, there's not a hot link on that. It should. Not my slide, but drawing, printmaking, photography, there it is, interior design. So it's encompassing. So So I took all of those different categories, or those different actually what we would call outcomes of art history. And when you identify something, attribution, who is the artist, who made this? And that's always first. Pablo Picasso, Guernica. Guernica is the title. It should have that on it. The date, Guernica, 1937, place of origin, Paris, France. Although he was a Spaniard, he moved to Paris. Media, oil on canvas. So that is the attribution stuff, and that typically comes on every slide. Most every slide, not all of them, but sometimes I get the attribution on there, and then I'll show you different pictures of the same work. But that is identifying, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. Who, what, when, where, but not why. Oh, these were different things that I got last time. This time last year, these were different people. As I polled everyone in class, different artists, everybody had a favorite. And so I'd like to kind of do the same thing with you guys. I have this on record, so you can just shout them out. Anybody got favorite artist? Favorite work of art? See, some of these are like people doing animated stuff like that. Bob Ross, the guy who does public television, he's passed away since then. But you guys ever watch Bob Ross? Yes, you take your cerulean blue and your titanium white, take your 2-inch house painting brush, mix it all together and drag it across the top of your canvas. Now you have a happy sky. Is my beautiful taste. Some of these I'm sure you guys recognize, some of them not. Of these, how many would you figure would be in the course content in the textbook? No. Well, let me tell you, Edgar Degas, Little Dancer, 14 years. How many of you guys from St. Louis? Yeah, a lot of you should be, yeah. How many of you remember seeing this at the St. Louis Art Museum? Yeah, great. Gabriel, right? Yeah, it's a statue. It's in about this tall, maybe. Bronze statue of a ballerina. Actually, a ballerina in training, little dancer of 14 years. So she's in ballet school. It's sculpture. What makes this in some ways kind of remarkable is that the guy who did this, Edgar Degas, did a nice job with kind of a beautiful statue, but he actually put the ballerina tutu right on the bronze statue. Am I right, baby? Yeah. So that was kind of a thing. Sandro Botticelli, Birth of Venus. Anybody know what that is? Well, then I know that by the time you leave this class, not today, but this quarter, you'll know that. And George O'Keeffe. Anybody know George O'Keeffe? All right. I forgot your name already.
Sophie.
Sophie. Thank you, Sophie. American painter, 20th century, did famous for doing close-up paintings of flowers and plants and things. New York artist, moved out to Taos, New Mexico, pretty much founded the Taos art colony out there. She attracted a lot of other artists of various sorts, like Ansel Adams and a lot of the photographers of the age and stuff. And anyway, she was very famous, lived to be almost 100 years old. From Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, right outside of Madison. They got a museum for her. Anyway. So, talking about identifying these works. So this is all of the information I was telling you about identifying. Artist, title, date, oil on wood. What they don't give you here is where it originated. And that would be Italy. But it says Musée du Louvre, Paris, right? That's where it is. That's where you can find it these days. So you'll find out that when we look at the work, no matter if it's in AD, AH 100 or this class 150, in the textbook, it's almost always categorized by the country of origin. And that's how it's presented in the textbook. But in the illustrations, they list it where it is now. It's kind of an interesting thing. That's actually a kind of a relatively new phenomenon, relatively in terms of historical time, because for a long time, if you wanted to see Da Vinci's Ghost was coming, if you wanted to see Mona Lisa, you would have had to go to Italy to see it. Italian art was pretty much in Italy, French art in France, etc. Egyptian art, originally all in Egypt, but really in the 19th century, what we find is that a lot of art starts drifting other places. In 1912, by the way, that's when France, I believe, got the Mona Lisa away from Italy. But you'll find that Egyptian art will be at the British Museum, the Metropolitan Museum, the Kansas City Art Institute, and so on. So don't mistake where you can find it, because we had kind of a global, some people call it a plundering. That's probably a little harsh, but the era of colonization, where we were a colony, the US, we were a British colony, and parts of us were a French colony, right here, Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase. Anyway, bottom line, kind of changed everything up. And so there was this kind of thing where French art came over here in part due to the fact that in the late 19th century, a lot of Americans were starting to get like filthy rich. Guys like Rockefeller and Carnegie and Vanderbilt and all of what they used to call the robber barons. They controlled the oil, the railroads, the steel industry. They made tons of money. And what did they do? They went over to France and they bought up a lot of artwork. I mean, they spent tons of money. And this is an interesting quirk of history. They bought up a lot of artwork that the French at the time, by and large, really didn't quite appreciate. So they got all of this stuff at bargain basement prices. What am I talking about? How about Van Gogh's The Starry Night. His masterwork. You can't find that where he created it when he was living in France. You find it at the the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. It's because Americans bought this stuff. That's why you can go to St. Louis Art Museum and find a Van Gogh and a huge Monet, water lilies and stuff like that. So anyway, art kind of moved all over the place. So don't ever confuse where it's at with where it was created. And we'll talk about that. So Leonardo da Vinci, Italian genius, 15th, 16th century. So classified. You can classify this in a whole bunch of different ways. Subject matter. You could put this in what you might call a portrait gallery. In fact, we have portrait galleries. Have a Smithsonian portrait gallery in Washington, D.C. So yeah, you would say it. Style. Style, we would talk about this. What would you call this as stylistically? Anybody? How about this? Go with a simple classification. Could be realism / naturalism, abstract, non-objective. You call it realism. See, it's kind of funny. You know why I'm saying it's funny? Because I think our sensibilities, we would call this realism, and have been classified as realism for a long, long time. That was kind of the way we rolled with that. Realism. I think that we look at it now and say, well, it's not that real. Skin color is kind of. I think our expectations of realism has really changed with technology. I think photography is the realism of the 21st century. I can do something with this, make it much more realistic than this. But this came at a time when artists were striving to make things realistic. And this was done during the Renaissance, and you would call that maybe a Renaissance style. We'll call that a high Renaissance style, which means realism. And this is more realistic than most anything that came before it, at least in Western. And so the idea of being able to create those folds to make that look like cloth, that's like a big deal. That was certainly a big deal in the early 16th century. Formal concerns, we're kind of talking about that. And so we would classify this in the field, as I was saying, of painting. So that's how you classify it. Can move on. Formal analysis really is concerned with color, space, shape, line, and composition. Now, you guys who are graphic artists and interior decorators and interior designers, you kind of know what that is. We use that same language across the visual arts. And so for those of you who aren't art majors, we're going to talk about these a little bit in depth. I won't expect you to know that until after we talk about it, but when it says formal, it refers to matters of form. So the form is described by its color, which in this case is kind of muted color. It's not very vibrant. It's not very colorful. Space. This was something too that was a Renaissance idea too. This background behind Mona Lisa, purely invented. That place does not exist. But Da Vinci, being a scientist, you guys have all heard of Leonardo da Vinci, right? Yeah. Well, he was a scientist as well as an artist. And one of the things that he and his cohorts figured out was how to make an illusion of a deep space believable on a flat surface. So they started doing all different kinds of things with atmospherics. You see how it's not quite, I'm gonna get in here. So it's less distinct as you go back. That's called atmospheric perspective. That's a formal issue, and they figured out how to do that and how that they could invent a space that didn't exist to put behind the portrait. And so, and if you get a close-up look, you can see some of the patterning on the cloth, as I was talking about, the folds and the drapery. One of the things that Leonardo was famous for was light and how light hits skin. Light hits skin and reflects, skin reflects light almost differently than any other thing we know. So to make it look like skin, you have to kind of figure out what that's all about. And what I mean by it reflects light differently, no matter what your skin color, it absorbs sunlight and it reflects sunlight. That's true with a lot of almost everything you see. That's kind of an obvious statement. But skin does it in a different way. So you can see this is black, that's whatever, tan colored, whatever, muted light. You can tell that those are hard surfaces because of the way they reflect light. You can tell, well, you don't even have to touch them. You know that that's a hard surface by the way it reflects light. It's what you see. Well, skin's a lot different. Skin takes in some light and reflects light, and there's been a lot of philosophy about this, a lot of science about it, a lot of religion about this. That's the glow of light. That's what you see. They will tell you that that's why you can see if a person's dead, they lose that. Their skin looks different. It starts to lifeless, obvious. So anyway, human beings, the skin does an interesting thing, and they try to recreate this in painting. And this is where they were in 1505. This is as good as they could get. And it's actually a lot better than what they did before that, because a lot of the artwork before that time looks cartoonish by comparison. It's an outline, it's a flat color, it looks like a hard surface. Doesn't look like that. And so that's really Da Vinci, his science, his powers of observation, his mastery of color. That's why it makes this kind of a very important painting in the history of Western art. So how do you evaluate art? This is my own little part that I put in here. What does it do and how well does it do it? So I was telling you here why, and we know in Da Vinci's notes that he was trying to come up with ways to create a believable landscape out of his mind, out of his imagination. And he used all of the things that he observed in nature and made this whole crazy landscape with the road going through it and stuff. How well does it portray human skin? Does this look lifelike? And for centuries, people thought this was probably the apex, the epitome of lifelike painting. And there have been volumes written about this. If you ever go and do a library search, Mona Lisa, tens of thousands of hits. One of the things that people had talked about is this for eyes. And by today's standards, they don't look that real. In fact, you guys would say she needs some Visine or something, They don't shine, they look kind of off color. Part of that's age. Part of this whole surface is age. But bottom line is that just like the skin, the eyes here and the kind of smile, the idea or the message, I should say, is that she's thinking about something. She's looking back at you, the viewer, and it looks like she's going to say something, look like she's thinking about something. And so all of that all plays a part in the kind of scientific and artistic research and inventions of Leonardo da Vinci. And so how well does it do it? Well, for the time, the best. For today, like I say, we can get more realism with our phones. And so interpreting awareness of cultural context, that's what I'm talking about. This was realism in the 15th century and 16th century, etc. Awareness of legacy, and I've been talking about that here too a little bit. Those of you who know about Da Vinci know that he was probably the preeminent scientist of the era. And he was an inventor, and he did things. He studied the human body. We know that he did anatomy, and his anatomical drawings are superb. And even to the point where he went against the church and against the law, which were kind of the same thing back in 1505. He had people, grave robbers, dig up cadavers, and he dissected them to understand human anatomy. And he would do drawings that are amazingly accurate. They hold up to this day, 500 years plus later. He invented things. He had these ideas of making an airplane, a flying machine. They had this other thing that looked like a helicopter. It had a kind of corkscrew wings, and just all different kinds of things. Amazing person. That is the legacy, personal response. This is 2023. You knew that. Here's what I have to say about personal response. Increasingly, in the field of art, art appreciation, and in art history, there is an acknowledgement that what art means is in in a large part determined by the viewer. There used to be an old saying back when I was your age, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which means that a person looking at the work would decide whether or not something was beautiful. And that the whole purpose of art was to portray beauty. Beauty and art synonymous. Well, not all art is beautiful. We're kind of figuring that out at long last. A lot of art's very disturbing. How about this one? You guys know it. Edvard Munch, The Scream. That's like, I guess it's beautiful. It looked kind of scary to me. I mean, guy's all white in his eyes. Personal response. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now we talk about meaning is in the eye of the beholder. What you think it means is what it means. It's what it communicates to you. That is the meaning. And many, many, many artists working today believe that to be the case. They're operating on this idea of personal response. How many of you have heard of a guy named Jeff Koons? Oh, I got a lot to teach you guys. Jeff Koons, he's an artist. He's my age. He's been famous for about 30 years. I went to teach, he went to fame and money and stuff. But his work, he talks about his work this way. I'll bring in some Jeff Koons sometime, but he talks about it this way. He says it doesn't matter to him whether people get the meaning of the work as he intended, or if somebody looks at the work and said, oh, look at that green right there, that green stripe. I'd like to paint my truck that color. He said he's fine with that. If you get something out of, if the viewer gets something out of the work, no matter what it is, it's successful. And so that's a kind of a postmodern theory, reception theory, an idea that meaning is fluid. And it all has to do with cultural context. It's how we see things today and being able to see things as they did 500 years ago. And so that's the recontextualization of this. We're looking at it with the eyes of a 21st century artist, not the way that they looked at it. And so anyway, I brought these other little things. The Mona Lisa is kind of considered to be probably the most important work of Western art. And it's at the Louvre, and this is what you'd see if you went to the Louvre. This is how it's displayed. And it's behind bulletproof glass. When a museum closes, this thing slides down to the basement and it stays locked in a vault. And then it's almost like it's on its own elevator, except the elevator's just really this part of the black wall. You see, it's got this railing. You got to stay behind, and you can't. It won't let a lot of people in there at any one time. It was stolen in 1912 and held for ransom over 100 years ago. But I don't know that they're really so concerned about stealing it, because they had the armed guards and they had the safe and everything. the bulletproof glass is to prevent people from defacing this painting. So why would somebody deface the Mona Lisa? Well, these things still happen, actually. And a lot of times as an act of protest, as an act of insurrection, as a political statement, sometimes people attack artwork, which is kind of weird, but it happens. We'll see the Michelangelo Pietà that's in the Vatican. And the Pietà, if you don't know it, we'll see it in this class, but it's Mary, the mother of Christ, holding the body of the dead Christ. It's a huge marble statue. And in 1964, some guy who was an anarchist of some sort attacked it with a hammer and broke the fingers off of the statue before the police could detain him, arrest him, and put him in jail. So anyway, the idea of attacking artwork is a real thing, oddly enough. And sometimes people in this day and age take some of these things that are icons and they turn them into memes, you know. It's actually a kind of a touchstone. And so we would look at this. It's by a guy named Botero, and he makes all of these figures, portraits. It's always people, but like people on horseback. Everything's like swollen big, you know. And so, yeah, that's his Mona Lisa. I forgot who this is, some actress of some sort, anyway. Obama, Chewbacca. And as I was talking about, that idea of doing that kind of stuff is not really a new one. This was done 1917, 1912. Let me zoom in. Oh, this is from 1942, but it's a remake. Taking a postcard of the Mona Lisa and drawing a mustache and beard on it, and then putting these initials underneath there. We'll talk about those initials later. And here's the guy who did it, a guy named Marcel Duchamp, and he was a Dada artist, and he was challenging the norms. And in a lot of ways, our attitudes about art in this day and age, a lot of the seeds were planted 100 years ago by guys like this. And so, talk about Mona Lisa. And looks like I got through the 2 PowerPoints. It's 4:40. You guys like do this? What that's called? It's called twiddling your thumbs. It's like kind of a metaphor for not doing anything productive. So I say, let's not twiddle our thumbs. I got to meet you guys. That's kind of hopefully any questions before I say adios. Well, good. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. It's good to see you, Victor. Look, okay, I'm going you too. See you. young lady with the Rolling Stones t-shirt.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Grace.
Grace. Did you go to the concert when they were here in St. Louis? Oh, I did. My brother and I went, yeah.
Oh, they went to those older ones.
Yeah.
Thanks to my dad.
Oh, yeah. And Def Leppard, yeah, I'm liking that too.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, like your shirt,
Well, thank
like the
you.
band too.
Yeah.
Sophie,
Yes.
everything going okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm excited for this class, actually.
Okay, well, good, I am too. And I'd like to, reason I asked, I'm not trying to pry, but sometimes when you're kind of far away from home, you know,
Oh, yeah.
you
Well,
getting, doing okay with that?
no, yeah. I mean, like, I've never really been that much of a homebody anyways, and I've traveled a lot for hockey. And I mean, like, I have like 4 different girls that are from my city on the hockey team as well.
Oh, good,
So I
yeah.
mean, it's not that bad, really.
all right.
And I mean, like, I'm busy enough with school and hockey that I don't really get to. And
That's a good thing.
Yeah, which helps a lot.
So you guys be playing here pretty soon?
We already started playing, yeah. And then
Oh,
we
you
have-
did?
Yeah, we have 2 games. We have a game tomorrow and a game.
Over here? in
Yeah, they're
Chesterfield.
here, yeah.
What time's your game tomorrow?
Tomorrow's 5 p.m.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get to one. I know you guys are good.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow might not be the game to watch. We are playing the #1 team in the nation,
What, who's that?
Liberty University,
Really now? Liberty?
which is interesting. 'Cause they're like,
I know, yeah.
they're crazy over there. We went there.
They're like the polar opposite,
Yeah,
which is what I like about.
yeah, because I know 2 girls that are on that team, one of which I played hockey with during my gap year. And she's just not the type of, she's just very like, she's not religious, she's outspoken, she's confident in herself. Being a woman there isn't, with all those characteristics, it's,
I know, yeah, they
Yeah.
could, yeah, that could lead to a
Yeah.
hard time.
but I mean, academics are good and she has
Their academics are,
like hockey as well, so.
that's why they've been able to survive, because their academics are good.
Yeah, and beautiful campus too. I don't know if they've been, it's
No,
gorgeous.
never have,
And their
yeah.
football field's crazy.
Oh,
It's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Lynchburg,
Mhm.
Virginia, yeah.
It is a little culty though, I will say. When we showed up like late in the night and the only thing we could see was a light, like a lit up picture of their logo. And like Liberty, and it was just like the creepiest thing. And I was like, oh, I don't know where I am right now.
Oh, boy.